Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video. This time I wanted to do a short tribute to Johnny Craig, the famous EC artist that has drawn some of the most infamous covers for that company. As some of you that have been following my channel, you probably know that Graham Ingalls is one of my favorite artists. It's funny though, he turned out to be one of my least favorite when I was reading EC, but then he slowly has grown on me over the years, and he's become one of my favorite. But I've also had a strong appreciation for Johnny Craig. As a matter of fact, he was the first artist that caught my eye when it came to EC books, and he was my favorite for a very long time. So I just wanted to show off some books. Now I don't have the entire EC library where I could just pick out amazing books, amazing covers by him to show you. I could just show you with some of my originals that I have by him. Some of the covers that I really like that he's done, that are just some of my personal favorites or just infamous. So I have a stack right here, so we'll just go through them. And I'll start off with a bang, for me at least. I'll start off with the Crime Patrol 15. Like I said, if you've watched my channel, you know exactly what this book is. This is the first appearance of the Crypt Keeper. Sorry if I'm holding it like this. I tend to do that. Okay. Johnny Craig had he drew a lot of covers for EC. He went across the entire EC library spectrum. He drew crime books, then he would start drawing horror books. He did some of the early Tales from the Crypt books and so forth. He did a few Haunt of Fears. I think he did a couple Haunt of Fears. I'm not certain. Not too many. But, you know, the guy was very, spread out. He did a lot of work for EC, did a lot of memorable work. And here he drew the cover to the first appearance of the Crypt Keeper. Close-up of a man watching a TV series of somebody sneaking behind another man. And here we have the same thing happening. Really cool. I like the color scheme a lot on this cover. The dark, I think it's dark brown. I'm colorblind, just in case you don't know. So it's sometimes hard for me to tell dark brown from like black. But I like the colors here. It all works out well. And Johnny Craig has that unique style, very familiar style of drawing characters with strong chins. He was just drawing himself, because if you see pictures of Johnny Craig, he had a strong chin and so forth. But he drew characters that were typical of the 50s, 50s stereotype, very clean and very proper. But as Bill Gaines one time said, Craig would draw stuff like that, but draw the most horrible things happening to them. Here's Crime Patrol 16. I think this is the better cover of the two, 15 and 16, because there's that horror element. You have more of the suspense element here. You have someone coming in through the French doors, which can be terrifying. But here is where you have almost like that horror-like theme coming in with this green, creepy, almost like a ghoul's hand reaching out for the woman who's frightened and so forth. And you can see in the background, the rain. I think it's the rain rubbing and the lightning too, lightning bolt outside the window. So it really gives you that horror feel, which is where the series was going after this. So that's another one of my favorites by him. And we're still in the Tales from the Crypt realm. I'll finish up with Tales from the Crypt with these next two issues here. Here we have when Crime Patrol officially becomes Cryptid Terror. I love this cover. It's a pretty good werewolf cover. Not one of the best werewolf covers, but pretty good werewolf cover. The woman walking the paper up against the telephone pole. Werewolf strikes again, and the werewolf peeking out from the corner. Really cool. This is when you really see the supernatural starting to take effect in this particular title, formerly Crime Patrol. Here's another one. A really cool cover. I've mentioned this before in other videos, where you have one of the characters right up front talking about something. and that something is coming up right behind them. In this particular case, he's talking about his wife that he killed and wondering what the natives are up to because they're beating the drums so loudly. Well, looks like they resurrected your wife. And she's about to get her revenge. But another cool cover by Johnny Craig. Now we're going to go to the Vault of Horror. We'll first start out with one of my favorite covers by Johnny Craig. My absolute favorite. War Against Crime 11. Now, War Against Crime 10 is the first appearance of the Vault Keeper, but that is certainly not one of my favorite covers by him, and that's why I'm not showing it in this video. This is one of my favorites. And here again, just like with this issue, it's done across EC Comics so many times. You have a character right up front and center, and they're talking about something bad, and that something bad is usually right behind them. In this case, it's the guy's wife who has been resurrected from the dead after he killed her. And here's this guy's talking about a curse of a mummy. Well, here comes the mummy. I love this cover. I love the lighting effects up against a shadow. I love Egyptian lore, you know, when it comes to the mummies and hieroglyphics and all their funerary rites. And it's a no-brainer for me why I would like this cover so much. Then the title became Vault of Horror with this issue right here. Here we have another great cover by Johnny Craig. It's a classic bondage cover of a guy who's strapped down to a medieval torture rack, and they think it's all a dummy because it's in a wax museum, but it turns out it's not a dummy, it's a real person. Another memorable cover by Johnny Craig in the Vault of Horror line. Vault of Horror number 13, the second issue of Vault of Horror. I love it. Again, another one of those tropes. You know, he's a guy front and center talking about, oh my God, where's her body? Right there. But I love the cover. I love the colors. Just love the colors. The bright yellow and sort of like a bluish color. But was this purple or something? Works really well. And, you know, inside a mausoleum and so forth. It's stuff that I always was attracted to. Here's a great cover. It's very simple, though. Very simple. But it's a great action-packed issue, I think. A great cover. The light illuminating the casket and the zombie escaping. Early Johnny Craig rendition of the Vault Keeper and the Old Witch. Now we know when Jack Davis took over and you know, Graham Ingalls for the Old Witch, they look a little bit different. So this is just a classic example of how they looked when Johnny Craig was drawing them. I know, for instance, with Crime Patrol 15, I was the one that had that book slabbed. Al Feldstein drew the Crypt Keeper. Al Feldstein drew the first Vault Keeper too in War Against Crime 10. So they looked a lot different. They had more of a, well, the Vault Keeper at least had more of an Emperor Palpatine sort of look and feel, whereas when Johnny Craig took over, he had more of a horror feel to him. But love this cover. My first Golden Age book. I remember buying this book as a reprint back in 1990. They changed the color scheme a bit. The background was blue and all that stuff. Whatever. But just love it. It's Stared in Horror, I believe, where the guy's coming back to life to get revenge. That's always usually the case, right? Another Vault. This one I need to upgrade because the spine looks like it had some insect damage, but eventually I'm going to upgrade it. But I think this is one of Johnny Craig's best covers in the Vault line. Number 28. Such a great cover. The story in this is Till Death, Tales from the Crypt Season 2 on HBO. I remember when they did the big magazine size issues back in the early 90s. I think this was Vault of Horror number 1. But I love this cover. Once again, the colors, the yellow, the blue, and just the lighting effect from the fire that was set. I guess they have a fire somewhere off the cover that's illuminating up against them. It's just so great. And look how he draws the zombie. Look at that. That's just really messed up stuff. Classic cover, and all through the house. You know, I've heard me say that over and over again with my Amicus videos and so forth. Here's a classic Johnny Craig cover. Here's the Jack Davis renditions of the Ghoul Lunatics. As you can see, the more famous renditions, but much different than Feldstein and much different than the one I showed you previously by Johnny Craig, or at least with the Vault Keeper and the Old Witch. Now I have a few crime books here before we close up the video. This is one of my favorites right here. Close up of people being hanged in a medical, in a room that's meant for bodies to be stored before medical dissection. Not quite sure why they're hanged by hooks instead of just being in a morgue drawer, but whatever. I guess it's more dramatic, but it's really cool cover, one that stands out. An infamous cover. I mean, the crime covers. I don't have them all. I don't have all the issues. If I did, there'd probably be a lot more on this list. But crime suspense stories had some of the best covers. Here we have one that I got from Dr. Von Chilla, the infamous suicide cover. And it looks a little awkward. You think that some guy's coming in and killing her husband and so forth and so on, but when you take a look in the mirror, you see that he's the one that's actually holding the gun. Last one from this video, I think his most infamous cover, hands down, one of the most infamous covers in comic history, The Crime 22. Now, what I've heard about this issue here is that Johnny Craig, his original drawing, you saw more of the neck where you see where it was cut. I think Gaines told him to, raise it up a little bit because I think they were already feeling the heat from parents and religious leaders and so forth about their covers and the nature of them and so forth. It wasn't long after this, I think, when the trials began. I don't remember exactly what date it was, but this was infamously used in the Seduction of the Innocent trials back in the early to mid-50s. But definitely, I think, his most infamous cover by far. He's drawn a lot of great covers, a lot of brutal covers, but this is the most infamous. Well, thank you all for watching. Might do another one down the line, or I may do an Al Feldstein, which is another one of my favorite EC artists. So thank you again for watching, and stay tuned. Take care, everyone.